I did a post a while ago addressing parents on LinkedIn.
Okay.
I said, parents, if you have children who are at university, did you know they can use these resources to help them with their careers? 3 key things I want people to remember when they think of cybersecurity.
Okay.
Prevent the wrong person from accessing your environment or your house. Detect in the event that someone breaks into your house or accesses your resources, and respond when they do break in.
Hey guys, hello. Welcome to With Nyasha Michelle, and I am so excited for you guys to join me today, not only because I have an incredible guest before me, but also because that incredible guest has an awesome story that you need to hear. And just before we clicked record, I was kind of talking about how I came across you. But before I go into that, I'm not even going to go into that just yet. I'm going to allow you to introduce yourself to the people. Who are you?
Hello everyone, my name is Yemurai. I'm famously known for founding the social media page STEM Babe, which essentially is a platform dedicated to sharing opportunities to diverse audiences. The reason why I created the page is because I realized that not everybody has access to opportunities and information. So that's where that page was formed. Outside of that, in my professional life, I am a cybersecurity specialist within finance.
Look at that.
So I help protect financial institutions from bot attacks more specifically.
Okay.
And also I'm a speaker and I'm a lover of life. I love people, I love food, I love things.
I love that. A lover of life, because if you don't love this life, you're like, even though life has its challenges, but we're going to get into that a little bit later in terms of like how you can be a lover of life or how you've been a lover of life when things haven't necessarily been going in the best way that you wanted to. But we'll save that for a bit later. Okay. For now, I want to ask you first, Yemurai. Yeah? Are you happy for me to call you Yemurai, or am I calling you STEM Babe?
Nah, call me Yemurai.
Yemurai.
Yes.
Okay, I love that. As a fellow Zim babe called Nyasha, I'm very happy to hear that. Okay, so Yemurai, talk to me about what is the one defining moment that led you to the path that you are in now?
Not getting my A-level results.
Oh.
Yes. So when I was 16, I had ambitions to become a doctor. I'm Zimbabwean, so doctor, accountant, lawyer, engineer. And fortunately, I didn't get the A-level results that I wanted, which meant that I couldn't study medicine at uni. And so as a result, I had to have a backup option, which was chemistry. And so then through that, I had the opportunity to learn something different and really have to figure out alternative career pathways that weren't aligned with what I had initially planned. And from that, I accidentally fell into cybersecurity, I guess.
I love the accidental destiny path. But how did you feel when you're like 16 and you don't get the results you wanted for something that you worked so hard? How did you feel? Be real with how you felt, and how did you, because I imagine it might not have necessarily have been positive feelings. How did you pick yourself up from that?
Oh, interesting question. So in A-levels, I was predicted A-star AA.
Wow. Okay.
I was a smart kid.
Beauty and brains.
I just didn't perform as well as I wanted to in my A-levels, so I got 3 Bs. So I think not being able to meet that academically really, it disheartened me quite a bit, because obviously a lot of my other friends had done exceptionally well and were going to top universities. But I said, you know what, even if I'm not successful, I mean, I was successful in my A-level results, I just didn't get what I wanted. I'm going to make sure that when I go to university, I get first class. Yeah. So my aim was like, okay, so I didn't get the results that I wanted in my A-levels, but I'm going to take back that power and excel in my chemistry studies. Yeah. And as a result, I got a first class in chemistry.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did you love chemistry? Because I hated chemistry. God. Like I couldn't stand, the only subject within science that I loved was biology. And one of the things, it's a little bit twisted, it's because of, was it like NCIS and Law and Order and stuff, you know, like those crime shows. It's not twisted, but it's just like, I used to love what the forensic people used to do, and they would come onto murder scenes, and you know, there is the drawing, the outline of the dead body, and there's all those markers, etc. But you're figuring out how the person died, you know, looking at all the evidence. You know, in these American shows, there's always that typical nerdy person who's studying all the evidence and looking at the corpse, and you know, okay, this is how they died. There was blunt trauma here, you know, when they're doing the post-mortem. So I was really like intrigued by all of that, and like how the body works, etc. So I wanted to actually become is that like a criminologist or something?
Yeah.
Or a forensic scientist. Yeah, but then the physics and the chemistry just went over my head. Yeah, so it wasn't really my thing. But you loved chemistry, or
Nah.
Okay.
Funny story again. So when I did my A-levels, I said I would never study chemistry.
Yeah.
Why would I do that? But obviously I had to do chemistry as part of my A-level studies because I wanted to pursue medicine. It was really funny because my teacher in sixth form had said, Yemurai, I think you should do a degree in chemistry. And I laughed at her because I said, what are you talking about? So what happened was the university where I applied for medicine gave me chemistry as a backup option because I hadn't met the requirements for medicine. So I said, you know what? I need to do a STEM subject, one that's challenging so that I'm respected when I talk about my degree, because there's a certain energy you get when you say, oh, I studied chemistry or I studied physics. And I think I was trying to get back that power from not doing as well in my A-levels. So I thought, let me do an intellectually stimulating degree, prove that I am academically brilliant, and we'll see what happens after that. So it was funny because initially I was like, no, I'm never going to do chemistry. And then I thought about it and I said, do you know what? Bring it on.
Bring it on. And before we go to what brought it on and how you got to even be STEM babe and with the viral videos and all of that stuff, let's take it back.
Yeah.
Because some people know you as STEM babe.
Yes.
But you are also, you know, letting people know your given name, which is Yemurai.
Yeah.
Let's take it back to tell me about your life when you were younger to who you are now.
Wow. I have to say I had a really great childhood.
Oh.
A really, really great childhood.
Yeah.
I was born in Zimbabwe, came to the UK when I was about 4 years of age, and I have nothing but amazing memories. I had such a good childhood, riding my bike. I had a next door neighbor called Jack. We always used to go to the park. It was such a fruitful experience being a child. So in essence, my childhood was fantastic. It was brilliant. Secondary school, I have great memories of it. The experience of secondary school and having laughs and giggles. But I think in secondary school, I was still sort of figuring out, who am I going to be? What am I going to become? And like, what was my future going to look like? So those were questions I placed a burden on myself more so than a lot of my peers.
Yeah.
So I was really like about, okay, so how can I stand out in my career? How can I set myself up for career success, even at the age of 15? So I've always been quite career savvy at that age.
Did you feel pressure at 15 to already be thinking like, how can I be successful? Was it just an innate thing, or did you feel pressure like, I have to be successful? And if you did, where did that come from?
I think there are a number of things. I think I have female family members who I thought were absolutely killing it. And I was like, I would love to be like them.
Yeah.
And I just was really inspired by some of the female women who had successful careers. And I think innately as Zimbabweans, it's kind of put on us at an early age about our career and lives and education. So I really embraced that. But I also had a mindset of, I'm so lucky to be here because I have access to education, access to resources, and access to opportunities. So my dad would always say, look at all the opportunities that you have right in front of you. You can go to school, you have access to the internet, you can go to university, you have all of these resources at the tip of your fingers.
Yeah.
And I think I took that and ran with it. And I think even at my adult age, I embraced that. And I express that through my channel STEM Babe, where I share opportunities. So I think because I had ambition and I was aware of my background and the challenges that some people at home may face, and I had female role models who were successful in their careers, that really gave me a drive to really focus on my career and create the life that I wanted for myself.
Yeah. I mean, I was born and raised in Zim.
Yeah.
And I was there until I was 12. And education in Zimbabwe, definitely back then and still now, of course, it's got its different challenges, but was like second to none.
Yeah.
You know, Zimbabwe and Zimbabweans are the most literate, you know, or high up there in Africa. The education was really, really good. So I can definitely say, like, I can see your parents being like that, your dad being like that, because it's just a thing. Like, we go to school and we kill it, and we know how to speak English, and we know how to, you know, how to really navigate ourselves if we have to get outside of the country. Yeah. So it was actually really good for me as an experience. But like, I feel like I also had like that privilege of growing up in Zim.
Yeah.
How was it like for you growing up? Did you ever go back home? Was it a lot of times? And if you did, what was your experience like? Is there a difference in how you feel? Is there a difference in how you look at your country then and now?
From the ages 4 to 15,
yeah.
From what I recall, I only went to Zimbabwe once. And then I went back to Zimbabwe again when I was 15. So I don't really have that much experience of Zimbabwe in the early ages of my lifetime, I would say. It's only as of recent in my adult age, when I have sort of the finances to fund it, that I now get to experience Zimbabwe and enjoy it in that matter. So I can only really speak on that aspect of things. But every time I go to Zimbabwe, I'm like, I'm home.
It's always in the blood.
Yeah, it's like, I'm home.
Yeah.
The noise, the chaos, just being with your family. I don't know, it's just every single diasporan must and should go home on a frequent basis, I would say, because you just need to, that's where you belong. That's your home. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
England is somewhere that I was fortunate enough to be raised and be educated, but I always know that my DNA lies within my motherland, Zimbabwe. And I think also going back home makes me realize how the blessings and cursings of being abroad. So back home, people are hustlers. They have to make ends meet.
Those people, my gosh. Zims are like, I said something to this person a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, you know, like, Harare is so busy.
Yeah.
Like, it's busy.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, I've not been there yet, but I was kind of like, it's kind of like Lagos. I know Lagos is probably even more like, there's more bustle and stuff like that. But like, the person looked at me like, what? How? No. And I was like, dude, have you ever been in Harare? Like, especially, it doesn't even have to be at like, during like peak times. By 8 a.m., people are out and hustling. Like, any inspiration from like your Zim people when you've gone back?
Yeah, because I'm like, these people are hustling. They're having to deal with incidents of the electricity not working, instability in the economy, not necessarily having transport infrastructure like we have, and they're making it work.
Yeah.
And people are being successful. So for me, I'm like, it's actually, I'm doing myself disservice if I go to the UK and I'm not taking full advantage of all the resources that I have, because of people back home who don't have that much are making it work despite all of the challenges that are there. Who am I to complain about my life in the UK when I have everything at my fingertips and at my convenience?
Yeah.
So every time I go home, I feel empowered, essentially, when I go back to the UK to really excel and do well, because I've seen the way that people hustle through the ups and downs and instabilities of the economy and still remain positive about it. It just makes me think, like, what am I doing if I'm not doing anything with what I have here in the UK?
And still thrive, though.
Yeah,
there are so many places in Zim. So many people living good lives. I'm like, yo, I'm in my 2-bedroom small apartment in UK, and you've got this big land. Like, it's amazing. Our people are inspiring. But like, to stick to Zim, let's test them babes' knowledge of Shona.
Hey.
What can you say? How much Shona can you say? How much Shona can you understand?
You're going to do me like that? Like, wow.
Ndakataura Shona, ndakataura so uri kunzwa zvandiri kutaura.
Ndiri kunzwa zvauri. Hey, ndiri kunzwa zvauri kutaura.
Yay. Okay.
You need to just leave me in Zim where everyone's speaking Shona for a month and I'll be all right.
Yeah.
Tanzwa zvauri.
See, okay, that's not bad. Maybe we need to spend a bit of time together.
Yeah.
Go over to Zim, spend time in Kumusha, Nana Gogo, Nana Sekuru, and really learn the true Shona.
I think my accent's the thing that just finishes me.
Yeah. I can imagine anyone watching is like, But it's not just you though, me as well, because I haven't been for a long time anyway. So my accent also ain't the best, but it's all good. The reconnecting with like our culture is really cool. But I want to go forward now to your career in cybersecurity.
Yeah.
Your career has been what a lot of people call a squiggly career.
Yeah.
And I've heard you talk about your squiggly career. Tell me about that and what that means. So, as someone with natural hair, I know all about the joys and sometimes the struggles of not only achieving but maintaining healthy hair. That's why I started using Bella Vista. These products have been so healthy and nourishing for my hair that I'm more confident wearing less wigs and more of my hair out and natural styles like these braids. Bella Vista isn't just another beauty brand. It's a movement, honey. Their all natural products are designed to tackle hair loss, alopecia, and dryness whilst keeping your hair thriving. I've got 4 of their products right here, and trust me, they deliver. Plus, they don't just do products for hair, also for your skin. But let's talk firstly about this extreme hair growth. It will have you saying goodbye to balding, graying, and dandruff. This powerhouse nourishes from root to tip. And I live by Jamaican castor oil all day, every day. It's great for thickening your hair and strengthening those roots. But also, you know me, honey. I'm all about luxury. This Caviar Luxury Hair Growth and Shampoo will also nourish your scalp, leave your hair moisturized, and best of all, strengthen your hair. If you're ready for real results, check out Bella Vista today, because good hair days should be every day. Now let's get back to the show.
So essentially a career pathway that doesn't align with like a traditional career pathway. So very much we've been taught that what you study in your GCSEs and you do in your A-levels determines what you study in your degree, which then also determines what career paths you can pursue as a result of that. So traditionally speaking, if you work in cybersecurity, it's expected that you have a master's or a degree or some sort of relevant background, of which I don't. And I have a squiggly career path because I studied chemistry, and the way I got into cyber was by the grace of God, if I'm honest. We can go into the ins and outs of that if you really want to. And it does not follow a linear career pathway, and no one can replicate my journey. So it's interesting when people are asking me, like, how did you get into cyber, with the intention of trying to replicate the way that I did? And I'm always like, my journey is very unique to myself, and hence why now I try, and based on my experience working in the industry and what I know, I now try and provide people with a better pathway, I guess, for them to enter into the industry, given that I would have done the same thing if I knew that I wanted to get into cybersecurity in the first place.
Yeah, but you haven't really told them some of the juicy / interesting parts of your career. And also, back to what I was saying earlier when it comes to how I came across Yemurai, little quick thing. So, you know how social media be showing you everybody else but your friends that you follow, yeah? This babe, her IG just kept coming on my page, right? And I definitely recommend that you check out some of the videos, but it was you talking to the camera, TikTok style videos, talking about tech type jobs. And I'm in journalism, I'm in media. I'm not even thinking about changing careers, but there was something about you that I really liked, because one of the first things was you were a Black girl talking about tech, and you were highlighting all these different careers, which I wouldn't have even thought about, like in the UK government, in NHS and all this stuff. So that was the first thing. Secondly, it's because whatever promos you were doing, they were working, because you kept coming. Then one day I was just like, let me just follow her, okay? Let me just follow her, even though I know I don't want to move into tech. I just found your content insightful. Then it's coming towards the end of the year. And then this babe does the posts of like what she's achieved or something. So I swipe through, ne? I'm like, oh yeah, this is cool. Because also there's just that, I don't know, being inspired by somebody. And then I see the name, Yemurai. I said, Eso. Like, as in, she's one of us. So Yemurai is a typical Shona name, just like my name, Nyasha. That's a Shona name. Anybody else who's called Nyasha and they're not Zimbabwean, they stole it from us. So that inspired me. And then that made me like, okay, let me reach out to you, because I was already doing this. And I just felt like the paths, the stars, the divinity was just aligning. So I thought that was just really cool. When we had a chat now, prior to this, you now start telling me about your story. I've lived and worked abroad, blah, 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 America, whatever. This ain't about me. This is about you.
Yeah.
You've done somewhat of the same thing. You, instead of going to my Greece's, my New Zealand's, whatever, what I did, you studied in China.
Yes.
And it was at a really critical time in the world.
Yes.
Not just in the UK. Talk to us a bit about that.
Okay, so I'm someone who's ambitious, and I always just have to do the most with whatever opportunity is given to me. So when I was doing my chemistry degree, I remembered you didn't get A*, you got 3 Bs. Not only do you have to get a first, you need to do the most. So I said, what things can I do to help my CV stand out?
Yeah.
So at my university, they had study abroad. So I participated in 2 study abroad programs. The first one was study abroad in Canada for 1 semester. So in second year or first semester, I went to Canada, and that was an incredible experience because I was learning using a different education system to that of the UK, which kind of excites different parts of your brain and helps you learn in a different way.
Yeah.
And I was learning about different cultures and just navigating a different space, really, and meeting new people, etc. And I love challenges. So that was part 1. Part 2 was the China experience. So at the end of my degree, I did not obtain a graduate program, an industrial placement, or any sort of career opportunity. And I was still kind of figuring out, what on earth do I want to do with my life? So I said, I can't go back to my parents' home and say to them, oh, I'm trying to figure my life out and I want to take a gap year and do nothing.
No, Garabas. You want to just sit and do what?
Yeah.
In whose house? No.
So I was like, nah, I'm not doing that. So at that time, year abroad in China was being offered as a program.
Yeah.
So I and ahed about it, and I thought, you know what, why not? When am I ever going to go to China in my life for that duration of time? And also, I thought it would be a great experience, something completely different, and you just never know what opportunities could come from that.
Yeah.
So I decided to go to China, and it was an incredible experience for a range of different reasons.
Yeah.
There's a lot of misconceptions. When I was there, I became closer to God, funnily enough. I started to go to church. I went to a Bible study in China. I know. And a lot of people had said, oh, you can't really practice religion there and stuff. But I went to church and I went to a Bible study. I would never have done that in the UK.
Was the church open? Was the church free?
Yes.
Really? So not like an underground church or anything like that?
Yeah, so the church was targeted towards expats and foreigners.
Okay.
And I can't remember what it was called, but they had people from all over the world. You had America, South Africa, South America, the Caribbean. You met people from all walks of life coming together to go to church on a Sunday. And that was a beautiful experience. As compared to some of the other experiences I had in the UK going to church. They weren't bad, but in comparison. So that was one aspect. Another aspect was I met a lot more Black people in China where I was staying.
In China?
Yeah.
You met a lot more Black people in China than when you were
studying in Liverpool.
Than when you were in the UK. And when you were studying in Liverpool.
And from more walks of life. I was talking about people who were born and raised in Africa.
Yeah.
So your experience of sort of, how do I say this politely?
Say it as it is.
No. I'm trying to figure out the language for this. I think, do you know what? My experience in the UK was mostly like Black British.
Yeah.
So going to China, I met sort of people who had been raised in Africa, and they have sort of a different mindset, a different tenacity and resilience to life, I would say. Not to be mean to Black British people, but there's just something when you connect with people who have been raised most of their lives back home. So that was a beautiful experience, and just being able to spend time with those people from all different areas was amazing. And also, again, I had the opportunity to study there as well. So it was probably one of the first times in my life in academia where I enjoyed studying, because I wasn't studying chemistry. I was learning about international relations and Chinese studies and how to do business in China. So for me, it was like learning something that wasn't as scientific as I was used to, and just having opportunity to really understand how the world works in other areas. So it was a great experience. Then what happened was, during Chinese New Year, I went to Australia because, you know, it's like their break during that period, and then COVID happened.
Wow.
So my year in China studies were terminated and put to an end. So we were basically tasked with coming back from wherever we were in the world to come back to the UK. And that was the key moment in my life, essentially, where I started to make that pivot and that change into technology. So what happened was, when I came back from Australia during that break in Chinese New Year, I was tasked, in order to complete our year in China studies, we were tasked with, essentially for the remaining semester, looking at how we can use technology to teach education. So I explored technology and its applications within science education. So for me, it was like, oh my gosh, like, this tech thing is really cool. I wish that I had been taught chemistry using some technology. And during that time, it also coincided with a lady called Yasmin. I call her my destiny helper, whether she likes it or not.
We love that.
She basically tweeted she earned 6 figures in tech. And I remember that was a light bulb moment for me. I'm studying technology and I'm really interested in it. And then a Black woman in her 20s is talking about not just her financial success within the industry, but her career success in the industry. So I like money, and I'm a career person. So I put 2 and 2 together, and I thought, if she can do it, I can do it too. So then one thing led to another. I did a 12-week boot camp in cloud computing. Then following on from that, I worked at a health tech startup. So the health tech startup was basically an intersection of my 2 skill sets: the cloud computing knowledge I developed from my boot camp, but also the academic knowledge that I developed from chemistry. So it was a really good interdisciplinary career, as I call it, where I was able to bring those 2 worlds together to help people in hopefully creating a technology kit that could detect COVID. So I had 6 months of that, which was fantastic. But with startup lives there, it's a bit fragile, and you're not necessarily sure if it's, you're not sure if there's going to be longevity in your time there, especially when it's just starting out. So I was thrown back in the world again, trying to figure out, okay, so what am I going to do? And honestly, I had no idea. So what ended up happening was, I was part of a community support group called Coding Black Females. And they had a partnership with one of the financial institutions that I was working for. And I said, you know what, let me attend. I'm not doing anything. I haven't got a job. I'm stacking shelves in Sainsbury's, working at DHL, packing them Nike shoes because everybody was running at that time. And I was just like, nah, like, something needs to change. So
We've all been there. That job that you're just like, gosh, like, I this can't be it. Yeah.
So I attended that event knowing that I need a job, not really thinking anything of it. So during that event, that online webinar, the different hiring managers talked about the different careers that they had and the roles that they were recruiting for. And my manager at the time, I said, he seems like a really cool guy. He didn't really talk about the role in great detail, but I liked his personality. I liked what he was talking about. And I felt like, do you know what? Let me just apply. So he was hiring for a role within cybersecurity. And I just thought, I'm going to apply on the basis of, I think I could work really well in his team. I like what he's presenting to us during this presentation.
Yeah.
Let's see what happens. Didn't think anything of it. And I thought, what's the worst that could happen? They could just say no. So then 2 or 3 months down the line, I get a call and she says, oh, you've got an interview. I said, an interview for what? I said, an interview for what? She said, cybersecurity. I said, huh? So then I was like, can you send me the job description again?
Yeah.
So then she sent me the job description. I said, rah, what did I apply for?
So at this stage, it's been such a long time that you've like forgotten. So it's one of them ones where you look at it and you're like, oh my gosh, like I didn't even remember that I did this. I applied for this. Did you think as well that it's something that you were not going to get? Because of the time that had passed, you didn't necessarily have the experience.
Yeah.
Did you think did you have any doubt within you?
Do you know what? I just applied just because the opportunity was there to apply. I applied.
Yeah.
I didn't think of it like, oh my God, I wonder if I'm going to get it, because I was preoccupied in getting into another area of tech called cloud.
Yeah.
So I was more focused on cloud engineering because I'd done a cloud computing bootcamp. So me applying was just for banter. It wasn't like I'm hoping for the best kind of thing.
So sis got her first job for bands. I just applied for bands.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
And also but that also has to come with some type of faith within yourself.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of people who won't go for something because they just think, oh, I just don't have the brains. I just don't have the experience. I'm not going to be able to do it. And just to take you a little bit of like a side road or side note to what you're saying, a lot of the people who love and consume your content are young people still trying to figure themselves out, still trying to figure out, where am I going with my life? What am I doing? Blah, blah, blah. And may even feel like they're not doing really well because they haven't necessarily achieved what their peers or what they believe they should have achieved.
Yes.
What's your advice to somebody who feels like they are not adequate enough to go and knock on the door, to go for the opportunity?
So I think what I've realized is, by the way, it's not just young people who feel this. A lot of my clients actually who have one-to-one sessions are experienced working professionals with 15 years of experience. Yeah. So it's not something that's exempt from people who have been in their industry for a long time. Yeah. It's something, imposter syndrome essentially is felt across people in all stages of their career. It's not just young people. So first thing I would say is that all of us have the potential to be great if we believed that we're great. It has to start internally, and we were consistent in our approach to wanting to do something. Yeah. So a lot of the time people might be giving up too early because they're not necessarily seeing the results in a very short time frame. So they'll be like, I've tried this for 6 months, it's not working. And they're comparing themselves to other people who are supposedly have completed that journey in a lot shorter time frame, which isn't the case. So I think if you have a desire or an ambition to change careers, let go of the self-doubt and think, what is the life that I want to live? If I don't commit to this, do I want my life to continue the same? And if you answer that question, move accordingly, consistently, and over a long, sustained period of time. So what happens is people have these ideas, I want to change careers. They do a 12-week boot camp, they give up. They're like, oh, I'm not good enough, or I'm not getting a job within the first month or so. But the reality is when you're making a career change or you're not where you want to be, those things take time. Yeah. My journey from chemistry to cybersecurity, more specifically having done the boot camp, took 1.5 years. Wow. I was faced with so many rejections, 300. I kept getting no's. Like, people weren't taking me seriously, but I knew the life that I wanted to live. I knew I didn't want things to continue as they were. Yeah. And I saw that someone who looked like me was able to do it. So therefore I could do it myself. And a lot of the time, what I want people to understand is you already have a set of skills. You need to understand the skills you currently have, the impact that your skills have in the work that you're currently doing, and be able to translate that in a way that's easy for recruiters to understand how you can provide value into an organization. But also when you're interviewing, they're like, oh, actually, I see how her skill set can be used in my team. So there's some things that I want to add into my Squiggly career. So I know I applied for Vibes, but I knew I had strong transferable skills.
Okay.
I'm a good communicator. I can talk to people from all backgrounds and all stages of their life.
Yeah.
So I knew I could bring that to the table, and he could see that through the delivery of my interview. I'm someone who loves to learn. So he wanted people that wanted to learn and were excited by the industry, so I could demonstrate that. So during the interview, I focused on what I could bring. I highlighted, okay, I don't know this, but I will learn, and I have a lot of strong transferable skills, soft skills. So focus on what you have. Think about how you can translate that in written documentation and verbal documentation so that the person who's reading it can see themselves, can see you working for them, and just carry on focusing on that and building your skill set as you go along over a sustained period of time. The biggest issue I find is that people give up way too early.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry. I think the biggest issue is people give up way too early. People are comparing their career journey to somebody else's. I was really frustrated in my journey because I had tried to follow somebody else's career pathway into tech. And when I attempted to follow that pathway, it wasn't working out for me. So I was getting frustrated because I was like, this person has shown me the roadmap to getting into cloud. Why am I not getting into cloud? And I've done exactly what they've said. So I think with that, when people try and replicate somebody else's career pathway and it doesn't work out in the way that they want to, they can get frustrated and aren't necessarily open to changes in their career pathway that is more aligned to their journey and are focusing on somebody else's journey rather than their own. So those are the things I would say. Keep being consistent in what you do over a sustained period of time. I would say up to 1.5 years. Don't compare yourself because your journey is different to somebody else's journey. Like, you can't replicate my career journey, and that's facts.
Yeah.
And be open and accepting of that. And the third thing is think about the life that you want to live. Can things continue to stay the same? If not, make that change, be committed to that change, and sustain it over a long period of time.
Can we get a... Okay. I've just received a lot of nuggets from your TED Talk. Thank you for that. But let me ask you something, right? When I mentioned earlier that we kind of have like some similarities, I moved from one career to journalism, right? And my career is what also allowed me to travel and live abroad and study abroad. And then when I really realized journalism is my passion, I decided, all right, cool, let me start doing this. However,
yes,
it was so difficult to get into the industry.
Yep.
The access, it's like the access doors were closed, particularly for a person who is Black and female, unfortunately. So I met some people as well who wanted to get into the industry, but because of different issues, etc., them being very much a minority,
yes,
there was that intimidation and they exited the industry. What would you say to those who feel intimidated about entering that world of tech and cybersecurity? Like, it's a lot. For any reason, they feel intimidated, including, I just don't think I have the brains, or I don't think I'm able to do this. What would you say about that?
I say be the change that you want to see. Even if you can't see somebody else doing the thing that it is that you want to do, be that person and open doors for other people to get into the room. The second thing is, when you're entering into these spaces, it's a new territory, it's a new experience. And sometimes you won't know what it's like working in a particular space until you're actually there.
Get there.
So I think people have an idea of what they think they want to do because potentially they've seen people show their lifestyles. I make cybersecurity really attractive. Thank God I actually enjoy what I do, but there are challenges within the industry. One of the things I would say is find a community group of people who are in the same position as you. So I fortunately was part of Coding Black Females, and everyone would share the challenges that they had within the industry. And as a result, you had a community of people who would acknowledge the issues and the challenges you had, but also potentially how to navigate it as well. Another thing that has helped, especially in corporate working within the industry, is having someone senior who looks like you and speaking to them and being able to sort of, is this normal? Am I the only one experiencing this? Have you had this before? So having a community group of people who are in the same position as you, and attending those events and feeding into that community, but also having someone that you can look up to in a senior position as you, who's ahead of their career in the space that you want to get into, and ask them and, you know, get mentorship from them if they have capacity, and ask them, is this normal? How do I navigate this? What would you do in that situation? Another thing I would say is the reality is that in some instances, you're going to be one of the first people in these spaces.
Yeah.
It is going to be hard, but I always think that I have to be the change that I want to see. And although that will come with its challenges, hopefully I can use my position to open doors for other people.
Yeah.
Because when I think about Yasmin, she was tweeting, in essence, she was saying how she wasn't even getting paid enough compared to other demographics.
Okay.
So her even sharing those challenges highlighted to me that, yes, when I embark on this journey, I'm going to have these challenges, but I know that somebody else has been there before me and they've managed to go through it as well. So when you are into these spaces, know there are community groups, look for people in senior positions who look like you, but also understands that you may have to bear the burden being one of the first, and take it as a responsibility to open doors for others as well.
I love that. But one thing I do want to say, actually, is that sometimes those who look like us are not always the most supportive. I've been in certain situations where, not just myself, myself and some of my peers, some of my girls, you know, some of the guys that I know, where our actual destiny blocker was those who look like us.
Ooh.
Like that one, like that's always been something I've found difficult to get over, because naturally, if we're in there, especially where we're the minority, we should stick together, no?
Yes.
But it's not an expectation, is it?
Yes, I think adding on to having someone in senior positions who look like you, I think it's actually important, in addition to them, you have people who don't look like you as well.
Allies.
Because they have a different perspective of life and they don't feed into a narrative that you may have when speaking to someone who looks like you. Sometimes they might say something, you'd be like, oh, I never thought of that. Or they might give you gems, or they might be like, just give you tips and advice that you might not necessarily get from those who look like you, because they're having a completely different experience of what it is you're looking to get into. So I guess in addition to have someone who looks like you, be open to receiving advice from those who don't, because each individual can provide a unique experience, gem, or advice that you might not get from somebody else. And the destiny blockers thing is a real thing.
Yeah.
I experienced that when I was trying to make that career change from chemistry to cybersecurity, because generally speaking, Zimbabweans in the UK tend to go down the route of healthcare. So trying to go outside of that, or anything outside of accounting or engineering or law, was kind of alien to some. Yeah, it was kind of alien to some people around me, because they hadn't necessarily seen it be successful for people who had tried to do that before.
Wow.
So for me, it was like, I have the challenge of trying to prove that I can do it. I'm not following the traditional become a nurse, become a doctor kind of thing, which is kind of what we've somewhat been programmed to pursue a career in, because I think it's the stability of knowing that as a Zimbabwean, I'm coming to the UK, the thing that's going to give me job security is working in healthcare or accounting or whatever it is. So me going against those kind of norms was difficult, because the people who were against it hadn't seen it work out successfully for other people who had tried to do it. So I faced a lot of, don't do it because it didn't work out for this person. Remember, you're black and they're not going to receive you the same. Remember, you're competing against this person.
Wow, you really
and that
had people saying that to you?
Yes, I have. But I never took it in personally, because I understood where they were coming from. I understood that there are challenges to going against the norms of in industries where we are the minority, and we haven't seen as many success stories of people breaking into other careers outside of the traditional. Of course, they're going to project their fears onto me.
Yeah.
It's out of love for those who were saying it to me. It was out of love, not out of malice.
Okay.
And I respected that, but I still made it my ambition to prove them wrong, but also satisfy my career desires as well. Because I knew I didn't want to do the traditional stuff. I had plans to pursue a career in tech, and I was going to do that. And ever since I've done that, those people have now been like empowered, I guess, to be like, wow, like if she was able to do that, then I can also do the same thing, but also translate that message to other younger people as well.
Okay. So
I'm the oldest of a big family.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of pressure on me to do well. I think me taking charge of the life that I want has opened doors for my younger siblings, whether they like to admit it or not, for them to believe that they can achieve anything and everything, even if it's not somewhere where there's many of us, or, you know, it doesn't fit into the traditional career norm. So that's happened. And then, yeah, and I think in the corporate space now, the energy is different, because I think because we're the minority, sometimes we feel like we might have to compete for the position.
Yeah.
Because there's only one space.
Only one of us can be in that space.
Get it.
But that's not true.
Yes. And I know, but that's the issue we have. We've spent our times competing to get in.
Yeah.
Then when we're in, it's like, oh, there's another person that looks like me. Could it be a case by where these people, this institution that we're serving, is only going to allow one of us to have that position of seniority or progress further in our career? Luckily, the senior people in my life who have looked like me have always championed my career success and actually advanced it. But I have seen it in other instances, in other people's lives, where the same person who comes from the same background as them has literally tried to block their destiny because of like fear of competition or wanting to be the only one and stuff like that.
Yeah. And it's sad that type of stuff happens, but we could talk about this for the whole day, but we're going to move forward now. I want to talk viral content.
Yeah.
You've got some content which has gone viral.
Yes.
And it's indicative, I think, of the fact that people find you relatable.
Yes.
Yeah. How do you make your content like that? Because somebody would say you're on social media talking about tech and cybersecurity. Boring. But why do you think people actually haven't found it boring, and it's attracted so many people and it's opened so many doors for you?
Yeah, so what I would say, the whole purpose of me creating my social media page, in addition to showing opportunities, was to address misconceptions about the industry. Because there's a lot of misconceptions, like there are only certain roles. You can only get into tech if you do this, that, and the other. So I essentially use social media to break down some technical concepts in a way that's easy to understand for my viewers, but also address misconception and open their eyes to be like, oh, wow, I didn't know this and I didn't know that. And I think sharing those experiences and opportunities and advice, I would say, has enabled people to be like, oh, I think I get this. I think I understand. And I think as well, there's an importance in the person who's delivering the message. So 5 people can say the same thing, but it's received differently depending on who says it. So I think there's power in me talking about cybersecurity in a way that's easy to understand and with passion and enthusiasm as a Black woman. Yeah. Because Black people are going to look at me and be like, oh, wow, she's talking about cybersecurity. Yeah. And then Black women at that are going to be like, oh, wow, she's talking about cybersecurity, but she's also seems quite knowledgeable and knows what she's talking about. So there's opportunity for me to do well. So I think that's why my content has done well, because I've made information accessible where traditionally you would only know about that information if you were in industry or in the know. Yeah, I think that's what I felt. So of course, I'm one of those people who was inspired by your content. I saw it, and even though I had no desire at all to change careers, I think it's just the inspiration of seeing a very knowledgeable Black woman talking about something, which I could tell would benefit more than just our demographic of people. Yes. So kudos to you for doing that. But also in addition to that, because of you doing that content, you've now gotten some recognition. Tell us about that. All right, I just have to interrupt the podcast for this exciting opportunity: home ownership. If you're dreaming
of owning a modern, secure home in Zimbabwe, listen up. This is for you. Velda Estates is making that dream into a reality with Spitzkop Gardens, a brand new gated community to the west of Harare. They've got stands available right now, and the best part, you get to build your home from a selection of sleek, modern designs. So whether you're planning your first home or looking for a smart investment, this is the place to be. So don't wait. These stands won't last forever. Hit up Velda Estates on Facebook, Instagram, their website, or you can even call them. All the details are on the screen. So get started on building the future you deserve. Now back to the show.
Yeah, wow. So just being online and being visible has opened so many doors. So I've been nominated for a few awards, one of which was Most Inspiring Women in Cyber.
Okay, wait, well, no, 1 second. Let us just, let me ululate. Yeah.
So nominated is one thing, but then I'm a proud recipient of an award called Tech Women 100.
Lovely. Congratulations.
Thank you. And so it was lovely being able to receive that and just having that physical thing there to say, keep going, keep doing what you're doing. In addition to that, I had the incredible opportunity to meet the CEO of Apple.
Tim.
Yes.
Are you guys on first name basis now?
Now, we're not levels like that.
But you get
that. I just think being in a space where I'm around some of the most influential people in the room and being chosen to be in that room, for me, it's like, wow, there's so much more for you to come. So it's been incredible, the opportunities that have come from being visible and providing value being visible, not just on TikTok and Instagram, but on LinkedIn as well. So I've basically diversified the platforms in which I share my content because I want to target as many demographics as possible. Yeah. So it's interesting because I did a post a while ago addressing parents on LinkedIn. Okay. I said, parents, if you have children who are at university, did you know they can use these resources to help them with their careers? And that was received really well because usually I'm just talking to young people or whoever wants to make a career change. But I think a lot of parents were like, oh, do you know what? Actually, I've got a son at university and I didn't know this, that, and the other. So just being online and being visible has meant that I've been able to share my message to a wide audience of people that I probably normally would never have opportunity to do so. Speaking on stages alongside some of the biggest speakers in the world and meeting the CEO of Apple, who's like one of the most influential people in the world. Yeah. As well as, most importantly, being able to change people's lives. So recently I shared an opportunity, a career change opportunity, and one of the ladies who was following my page applied for it. Yeah. And she was working as a physician associate and she managed to get a role in cybersecurity.
Wow. From medicine.
Yeah. From healthcare to cybersecurity.
Yeah, to cybersecurity. That's amazing.
So knowing that to me weighs more than the other accolades. Yeah. Just being able to use my platform to change people's lives. I have a saying, changing people's lives one opportunity at a time. Okay. Wow.
I could not even add anything more to that. Of course, it's your story, so I wouldn't necessarily need to add anything, but just say that is really inspirational. It makes me also wonder how much further you want to go within yourself, within your career, and just with making a difference in the world. But we'll probably save that question for last. We've spoken so much about your journey, what you do, but one question myself and a bunch of people probably have is, what is cybersecurity?
In essence, I like to relate cybersecurity to the concept of a home. There are loads of different types of homes, office spaces, residential properties, but the very essence of a home is to house the people that live there, make sure things are working, the electricity and stuff like that. In the digital world, organizations have their data and their information and stuff like that. So just think of organizations a bit of a home. The added complexity to a home is ensuring that you keep it safe so that people can't break in. And there's different components to keeping the house safe. You have doors, you have locks, you have windows, you have alerting system. So in the digital realm, cybersecurity is like the locks and doors of an organization's digital assets, essentially, and protecting that. And the way in which you protect that depends on the type of home. So if you've got flats or a house, it's going to be different to, in relating it to the field of cybersecurity, the way in which you protect an organization is going to be different from a small business to a large business.
Okay.
So when you think of cybersecurity, think about a home. Its purpose is to house the people that live there, ensuring everything functions as normal. In the realm of cybersecurity, people's digital assets essentially need to ensure that everything's working as possible, their data stored safely, they can access the internet online. The security aspect of it is, what are the doors we're going to put in place? What are the locks we're going to put in place? But in a digital aspect.
Okay.
I hope that makes sense.
Yeah. So
I want to add to that, actually.
Yeah.
So there are 3 key things that I want people to remember when they think of cybersecurity.
Okay.
Prevent the wrong person from accessing your environment or your house. Detect in the event that someone breaks into your house or accesses your resources, and respond when they do break in.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So relating it to the concept of a house, prevent, detect, respond. Hopefully you can translate that in the digital aspect of things for not just your personal information, but organizations as well.
Wow. Okay. I know we don't have a lot of time, but how do you respond if there's been a breach of your security?
That's a complex answer.
Is
I can't answer this in this. Yeah, it's long. It's long because I don't work on that aspect.
Okay.
So that's why you need to do the misconceptions bit. Because you see how broad cybersecurity is broad. I've just simplified it. There's so many different roles that sit under each of those different components.
Yeah.
So aspects of someone's role might be simply prevent people from getting into an organization.
Okay.
That's their job. Some people's role is detecting when they've got in. Then some people's roles are they're just called in an emergency. So where I sit is more so in the detection. I'm kind of looking and shopping around. Is this behavior normal? Is this not normal? Do we expect this person to be here, etc.? And then when an incident does happen, myself alongside other people within the organization respond accordingly.
So what's a misconception that people have about cybersecurity or your role in cybersecurity?
So one of the biggest misconceptions about careers within cybersecurity is that the only roles that are there are hackers, pen testers, SOC analysts, and incident response. There are so many different roles within cybersecurity. It's a bit like medicine. You can specialize in so many different areas within medicine.
Yeah.
So when you think about cyber, don't focus solely on the key roles which are advertised. Look and see what other areas of cyber could there be. So roles that I've seen, like using you as an example, an area of cybersecurity where you would fit is misinformation and disinformation journalist. So that is an area of cybersecurity where you're looking out for information that's not true or falsely generated. So one of my biggest manifestos that I champion is that technology is a skill set that you apply to an industry, not necessarily an industry in and of itself. When you think of it that way, you can think, okay, how can I apply technology into this role to meet business outcomes? So you have your skill set of journalism. If you learn the cyber aspects, you're bridging 2 worlds together to become a disinformation specialist and contributing towards protecting organizations from cyber attacks or cyber crime, as an example.
Amazing. Amazing. Now I want us to go to a segment that we call trending. And I want to ask you, what is one trend within your industry that is gaining popularity, and it can be good or bad?
One trend I would say is the rise of deepfakes. So essentially deepfakes is someone gets loads of images and videos of you and manipulates that content to make you say things that you never said. Yeah. And it's becoming more important, especially in your industry, because it means that people need to have increased discernment about the news that they're reading and the information that they're reading, because it may not necessarily be true.
Yeah.
So that's an area that's rising where people aren't necessarily going to trust what they read on the internet anymore because of the idea of misinformation and disinformation, which can come in the form of deep fakes, where somebody might get a video of Barack Obama saying absolute rubbish and people not necessarily being able to identify that it's a deep fake and taking it for what it is. So I think my biggest concern is that what do we trust? What's trustworthy now? Because we can no longer necessarily understand what is the source of truth. So trust, I think, is going to be one of the biggest things that's going to impact all of us, because information and data is being manipulated in all kinds of ways.
So the trend I've seen online is that people are concerned about the future of work in tech. What's your thoughts?
Yes, I think the world of tech is changing rapidly and evolving.
Yeah.
And what I think that means from a career perspective is that our tech careers are continually evolving, changing, and we have to learn continuously. So I think the notion of the traditional careers within tech are going to be challenged. So we're going to see all of these new roles, which I call interdisciplinary careers, which are roles at the intersection of two disciplines. One example is biostatistician or chemoinformatics, or something within health tech where you're bridging together two worlds of disciplines and essentially utilizing your academic knowledge of one discipline, in case healthcare, and incorporating technology within that to help make the industry better. So I think we're seeing an evolution of technology roles, forcing people to have to continuously learn, but also be open to learning about other areas of a business or a discipline and figuring out how to incorporate their technical skills within that role.
Okay. I want you to briefly talk to me about what you said, the World Economic Forum.
So essentially, the World Economic Forum have released their Future of Jobs report. And as part of that, they look at how they see the career landscape changing.
Okay.
And within that, they've listed sort of the top 10 skills and roles that they're seeing. From the top of my head, I recall it being big data and AI, cybersecurity, of course, but they actually list a lot of soft skills as well. So things like social influence, leadership, analytical skills. So that report is really interesting in terms of their perception of where they think the career landscape is going to change and how it's going to evolve.
Is my job as a journalist / presenter at risk? Could Alexa or Siri take my job?
I think a lot of your role encompasses a lot of human element. So I think it's a role that's still very much in need, where it requires human element, but I think it may change in ways that you may not necessarily have thought. I'm not sure how, but your role may change over time. And I think careers, the way we used to see a specific career, it's going to be restructured and changed and operate in a way that's not necessarily the same as it was 10 years ago. And I say this because I'm starting to see roles where even they require like doctors to have some sort of technical knowledge or technologists to have some sort of financial knowledge. Whereas before that, it used to be like, you're a doctor, you do your thing, you work in IT, you do your thing. But actually, the way that I see the career landscape evolving is that it requires you to have nuggets of knowledge from different areas of the business and bringing those together.
Okay. Yemurai?
Yes.
a.k.a. STEM Babe.
Yes.
Thank you so much for joining us here with Nyasha Michelle. But before I let you go, I want to ask you one thing. Where do you see yourself? Where are you going? What's the future? What can we be? What's on the horizon?
I envision myself to be a global leader within cybersecurity. I'm trying to break into those spheres of influence. I don't just want to be seen as a TikToker or someone that's on Instagram. I want to be seen as someone who's knowledgeable, credible, and respected in the space and provides impact within industry and in policy. So my goal is to be an actual change maker across nations, not just on TikTok and social media. In addition to this, I really want to be taking on global stages, sharing my message of squiggly careers and misconceptions about cybersecurity and empowerment of people who are going through imposter syndrome across the globe. And also just continually changing people's lives. The world is my oyster, I believe, and I've put these as goals, but I know there's so much more to life.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to all the other stuff that will come out of me on embarking on this journey.
Oh, and we look forward to seeing you achieve that. And when you become this global leader, do not forget us, ne?
Of
Come
course
back
not.
onto the sofa.
It'll be recorded here.
Hey, you heard that
It'll be
first.
documented. It was heard first on Nyasha Michelle's podcast.
There we go.
So when it happens, I'll be like, reference point.
There we go. How many, like they say in Zimbabwe, how many? Thank you so much. You heard it here first. We're going to hold you to that. Thank you so much again for joining us. But we can't let you go without you telling our people where they can find you.
Yes, so you can find me on Instagram, STEM_babe_. You can find me on TikTok, STEM_babe. You can find me on YouTube, STEM babe. You can find me on LinkedIn, Yemurai R.
Yemurai R.
Yes.
Thank you again for joining us here with Nyasha Michelle.
Thank you for inviting me.
All right.